Young black intern had only been at the company for 2 weeks, eager to prove himself, humble and full of quiet confidence. One morning, a man walked into the lobby, older, calm, and seemingly lost. The intern noticed something others missed. The man couldn't hear. Without hesitation, he greeted him in sign language, a skill he'd learned years ago to communicate with his deaf cousin. Everyone around paused, some smirking, some whispering. But that small act of kindness, that moment of human connection, was about to shake the entire company. Because the man he helped, he wasn't just any visitor. He was the CEO, and he'd come for a reason no one expected. Jamal had grown up in a small southern town where opportunities rarely knocked twice, especially for someone who looked like him. His mother always told him, "You don't need to be the loudest in the room, just the one who listens and learns." When he landed an internship at Brantley Co., a Fortune 500 firm known for its corporate polish and cold professionalism, he promised himself he'd work twice as hard for half the recognition. The office was sleek, modern, and intimidating. Hallways lined with glass walls reflected ambition and indifference. Jamal's role was small, managing front desk logistics, taking calls, and greeting guests. To some, he was invisible, just another face behind a corporate smile. But to Jamal, every task mattered. He noticed who said good morning and who didn't. He noticed how security guards, cleaners, and interns like him were treated like background noise. One chilly Monday, the company buzzed with rumors, an unannounced executive audit, whispered by managers rushing between meetings. Everyone was on edge. The senior staff were tense, desperate to impress. Jamal didn't think much of it. He just kept his head down, focusing on doing his job right. That morning, when the elevator doors slid open and an older man in a worn coat stepped out, no one paid attention. He looked out of place. No badge, no assistant, no luxury car waiting outside. Receptionists glanced up, then back at their screens. But Jamal noticed something different. The man's eyes searching for help, his hands moving slightly as if trying to communicate. And so, without hesitation, Jamal walked forward, not realizing that his simple human gesture would expose the very heart of what this company truly valued, and who among them truly saw others. When Jamal approached the man, the lobby had fallen into that uneasy silence that only corporate spaces seem to master. Polite, watchful, judgmental. The older man looked startled at first, but then relief spread across his face as Jamal signed, "Can I help you?" They exchanged a few quick gestures, the man explaining he was there for a meeting, showing a handwritten note with a conference room number. Jamal smiled and guided him toward the elevator, making sure he was comfortable. Behind them, a few employees exchanged puzzled looks. One of the receptionists, a sharp-tongued woman named Claire, muttered under her breath, "What is he doing wasting time with random visitors?" Another whispered, "That guy doesn't look like he belongs here." Jamal ignored them. He had learned long ago that doing what's right doesn't always look convenient. As he returned to his desk, a floor manager, tall, well-dressed, and clearly annoyed, walked over. "Who was that man you were talking to?" he asked sharply. Jamal calmly explained what had happened, that the visitor seemed deaf and lost. The manager frowned. "You shouldn't be wasting time on walk-ins. If he doesn't have an appointment, security should handle it." Moments later, the manager called security anyway. 2 guards hurried toward the elevators, ready to escort the stranger out. Jamal felt a sinking feeling in his chest. Something about this didn't feel right. The lobby grew tense as the elevator doors opened again. The older man stepped out, followed by the guards who looked visibly uneasy. Behind him was the regional director, her face pale. The man's demeanor had changed entirely, his calm expression replaced by quiet authority. He removed his coat, revealing an access badge clipped to his shirt. "Arthur Brantley, CEO." Whispers rippled across the room like electricity. The same employees who had ignored or mocked him moments earlier now stood frozen in embarrassment. The manager who'd scolded Jamal looked as if he'd seen a ghost. Arthur turned his attention to Jamal, the only person who had treated him with respect. He smiled and signed, "Thank you." Then he spoke aloud for everyone to hear, his voice deep but steady. "I like to visit unannounced, to see how people behave when they think no one is watching." The color drained from several faces. Claire tried to stammer out an apology. The manager avoided eye contact. Jamal just stood there, unsure of what to say. He hadn't done anything special. At least, that's what he thought. But what happened next would prove that one act of decency can reveal everything about a company's soul. The next morning, the office buzzed with an uneasy energy. Overnight, an email from the CEO's office had been sent to every employee. Mandatory all-staff meeting, 9 a.m. sharp. No one knew what it was about, but everyone could guess. The same people who had laughed at Jamal's kindness were now straightening their ties and practicing polite smiles. Jamal sat quietly at the back of the conference room, unsure whether he was in trouble or being commended. His palms were sweating, his mind racing. He didn't want attention. He just wanted to do his job. Then the door opened. Arthur Brantley, now in a crisp suit but still carrying the same calm dignity, entered the room. The chatter died instantly. He placed his notes on the podium and surveyed the faces before him. Some nervous, some guilty, most pretending confidence. "When I came here yesterday," he began slowly, "I wasn't visiting as your CEO. I came as a stranger, to see how this company treats strangers, the voiceless, the unseen." His gaze swept across the room, and what I saw disappointed me. He turned toward the front row, where the floor manager and Claire sat stiffly. "Some of you judged a man by his coat, his silence, his difference. Others saw only inconvenience, not humanity." His tone hardened. "That is not the culture we built this company on." Then Arthur gestured toward the back where Jamal sat. "But one person reminded me why I started this company decades ago, to create a place where character mattered more than titles. A young intern who didn't know who I was chose kindness without reward." Every head turned toward Jamal. He wanted to disappear into his chair, but Arthur's eyes met his, and there was quiet pride there. Not pity, not praise, but recognition. Arthur continued, "Leadership isn't measured by status. It's measured by empathy, by how you treat those who can give you nothing." Then came the final blow. Effective immediately, we are restructuring our leadership culture, and we will start by listening to the people who actually live our values. It was the moment everything changed, not just for Jamal, but for everyone who had ever been overlooked, silenced, or unseen. In the weeks that followed, Brantley Comer transformed from the inside out. The CEO's surprise visit became company legend, whispered first as gossip, then retold as a turning point. A silent test that exposed who people truly were when no one was watching. The floor manager quietly resigned. Claire was reassigned to a training program on diversity and inclusion, one she attended with visible discomfort at first, but over time even she began to soften. Departments were asked to review hiring practices, mentorship systems, and workplace culture. For the first time, interns were invited to company-wide discussions, their opinions valued, not dismissed. Jamal remained humble through it all. He never bragged, never sought attention. When the CEO invited him for coffee one morning, he thought it was just a courtesy, but Arthur had something else in mind. "You reminded me," he said gently, "that compassion is the strongest leadership skill. Don't ever lose that." Within months, Jamal was offered a permanent position, not as a receptionist, but as a coordinator for community outreach. His work began to focus on creating internship opportunities for underrepresented students, kids from neighborhoods like the one he came from, who rarely got a chance to step into places like Brantley Co. Sometimes late in the evening, when the office was quiet and the glass walls shimmered with the city lights, Jamal would think back to that morning. The awkward silence, the whispers, the courage it took to step forward when everyone else looked away. He realized something powerful. Racism doesn't always wear a mask of hatred. Sometimes it hides behind indifference, behind polite smiles and silent judgment. And it takes just one act of genuine humanity to tear that silence apart. As the company evolved, so did its people. Jamal's story spread beyond the walls of the firm, featured in magazines, shared in corporate trainings, inspiring change far beyond what he ever imagined. Because in a world obsessed with status, he proved one simple truth: kindness speaks louder than any title. And sometimes, it takes the quietest voice to make the world finally listen.